Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Hearthstone Rise of Shadows reveal season is on its way and it's time to look at the daily new cards. And today we have 8 new cards, including Dragon Paladin is coming and Druid is becoming a healing class and Resurrect effects are not dead. Wait, what? Some of these are good, some of these seem pretty bad, but you can't say that they would be boring. Let's go take a look at each of these cards in detail. First up we have the Hinge clan Steed, a 2-mana 2/1 beast with rush and a death rattle to summon a 1/1 Murloc. So this is a really interesting early game card. It's a common too, so it's potentially a nice sweet budget card. So if you compare about these effects, we have had effects like Spring Rocket, 3-mana 2/1 with a battle cry to deal 2 damage. A bit like this but with 3 mana, didn't see any play ever. And we have had card like Murloc Shaman, 2-mana 2/3, deal 2 damage, one of the best cards like ever. And this new card, this goes somewhere in between. Whether it's going to be good depends a lot on what the meta is going to look like. Because if the meta is such that there are lots of 2-drops with 2 health for example, and Hinge clan Steed can kill one of those 2-drops and then leave behind a 1/1 Murloc, then that's really interesting. That's interesting for various zoo type of decks, that's interesting for various budget decks, that's interesting for Murloc decks. Because if you play Steed, you kill off something from the board, you're left with a 1/1 Murloc, you follow that up with a War Leader, and suddenly you have a 3/2 Murloc, and that can keep on trading. So this one, an interesting 2-drop. Then we have something for the combo lovers. Chepet Joybus, a neutral legendary card, 8-mana 6/6, with a battle cry to draw 2 minions from a deck, set their attack, health and cost to 1. So yeah, you play this and you draw your Velen and you draw your Malygos, and then you have 1-mana Velen and 1-mana Malygos, and you can play like a clone priest again. Except that that's not really going to happen, these sorts of effects, unless you can control what you have in your deck. And you have some tools that you might be used to control that. Let's say you are playing Rogue, casually chilling. Turn 10 you play Malygos and you talk about scheme your Malygos back into your deck, multiple copies, and then you drop the Geppetto the next turn. Then you have 2 1-mana Malygis in your hand. And if you're still not dead and you also have a lot of damage spells, then you can actually get to do something. Okay, that maybe didn't sound quite as effective. Or let's say you have Baleful Banker and you Baleful Banker something back into your deck if it happens to come out too early. Yeah, I guess that didn't sound too great either. Well, this could be seen in some kind of these OTK decks, or maybe Geppetto could be used with some Battle Cry or Death Rattle minions. Get some really cheap stuff going. Like, say you have a Khadgar deck and you Geppetto and you get some of these nice Battle Cries like Channelize or Astromancers, so that you can drop even more stuff together with Khadgar. That might be a viable way to use the card. Either way, I don't think this card is very good, because if you try to do your combo with Geppetto, it's very slow. And typically combo deck is better the faster it is. So if you have a very complicated combo, and Geppetto will enable lots of very complicated combos. Don't get me wrong, it's possible to get lots of one-turn kill combos with this card. But the thing is, they look very slow at the moment. So that combo deck would have to have a good answer to, okay, how am I going to ensure that the right cards are in the deck? How am I going to survive long enough? And usually there's just going to be a faster combo deck that just says, okay, well, while you're toying around with your cards and Geppetto, then I'm just going to kill you. Definitely an interesting card, but I think it's going to be too slow. But then we start to get somewhere more interesting, because we start to get into Dragon Paladin. A new Paladin class dragon. Bronze Herald, a 3-mana 3/2 dragon with a death rattle to add 2 4/4 dragons to your hand. Those will be 4-mana 4/4 dragons, so not going to add cheap tokens, but dragon tokens anyway. And dragon is a mechanic where you want to hold on to these cards in your hand. And Paladin is still going to keep for another year the Cathedral Gargoyle, which was printed a year ago, and it was supposed to make Dragon Paladin something, but it didn't. But it's still a 2-mana 2/2 with Taunt and Divine Shield if you have a bunch of dragons, so maybe this new Dragon Paladin support is going to do something, especially when combined with this Dragon Speaker. 5 mana 3/5 with a battle cry to give all dragons in your hand +3/+3. I'm usually extremely bearish when it comes to these hand buff mechanics. Hand buff mechanics have sucked, and then they have sucked even harder in Hearthstone. One of the latest and greatest Glowstone Technician, 6 mana 3/4 battle cry, give all your minions in your hand +2/+2. Absolute disaster. But Blizzard does have a history of printing more and more powerful cards of the mechanics that they want to work until they finally work. And Dragon Speaker is getting close to that position. 5 mana 3/5, it loses a little bit of stats but not as much as the others, and all dragons are getting buff by +3/+3. So if you have had a Bronze Herald and it has died, and you have a pair of those 4 mana 4/4 dragons in your hand, they become 4 mana 7/7 dragons in your hand. And so even the meme is alive. And then you have stuff like Crowd Roaster, which is great removal piece, but then it tends to pretty easily get killed the following turn. But if you have buffed it with the Dragon Speaker, suddenly it's a 10/7 that deals 7 damage to a minion when it appears. So Dragon Paladin suddenly has access to a ton of really big minions that you simply will not be able to deal with without hard removal. There are various concerns, of course, like how well does hand buff go together with individual, already fairly big minions that you're going to be playing one by one anyway. But Dragon Speaker is the best statted hand buff card and the highest hand buff value that we have ever seen. So if something can make hand buff dragons work, then Dragon Speaker is that card. Good or bad, I'm definitely going to be playing some Dragon Paladin when the set comes out. I have been talking a lot about how all the resurrect effects are going away. Well, Blizzard decided that they're going to print a new resurrect effect. Mass Resurrection. 9 mana, summon 3 friendly minions that died this game. I have not yet got confirmation on whether this is actually 3 friendly minions or 3 different friendly minions, but the word different does not appear on this card. So in theory you could have like 3 Murloc Enforcers die and cast Mass Resurrection and get 3 Murloc Enforcers back. Or you could have a bunch of Velens die. Let's say you play Velen and you Seance your Velen. And then you play a Velen and you Seance your Velen. And then you play a Velen and then you resurrect 3 Velens. Mass Resurrection is worse than any of the previous Resurrect cards because it costs a ton. And we don't have any spell discounts, we don't have Radiant Elementals anymore. So on top of that 9 mana, you can't really fit in a sweet OTK play. Not very easily anyway. But you could still use this in some kind of a Combo Priest, for example. Combo Priest is losing a lot with Shadow Visions. Consistency is kind of gone, so I'm not sure how good that's going to be. But Combo Priest would definitely be interested in a card like Mass Resurrection, resurrecting those Murloc Enforcers, ready for using them next turn. Or maybe there will be a way to build some kind of a big priest. But currently it doesn't have those ways to cheat out stuff, so I don't know if that's going to work out. But if all your stuff is just big stuff, then a card like Mass Resurrection would fit right in. Overall, perhaps luckily, it is the worst Resurrect effect we have seen, because it's so difficult to combine that with other stuff in order to do interesting things. But there might still be some potential in this card. Then we're getting a new Shaman 1-drop, and this is a pretty exciting one, by the way. Sludge Slurper, 1 mana 2/1 Murloc, with a battle cry to add a lackey to your hand and Overload of 1. Well, Overload of 1 does suck. It's pretty... You play this on 1 and then next turn you also have 1 mana available. But on the upside you have a lackey in your hand, so you can play that lackey on 2. So that might work out. And then there's a bunch of Overload synergies in Shaman, and a very cheap Overload card is an easy way to activate those Overload synergies in the mid game. Let's say you have a Likim equipped. Like turn 2 you play Likim. Turn 3 you play a 2-drop and you play the Sludge Slurper. And okay, now you have a couple of minions, you activated your Likim. Likim now has 3 attack, Likim trades away the minions, you start to overrun the board. You have Thunderhead on the board maybe at some point stage of the game, then Thunderhead is on the play and you play Slurper, you get some Rush Box, you hit face with those, or you're playing with Hagatha, you're in Hagatha form, you play the Slurper, that's a random spell for you for 1 mana, you play the Lackey, that's another random spell for you for another 1 mana. That's just a lot of things that this little fellow can do. It can go into very many different types of decks even. And also it's a Murloc, but we're losing the Murloc quest, so that's a little bit bad. But being a Murloc, Shaman still has Ghostlight Angler. Maybe there's a way to build something with Murlocs. Murlocs are zoo-ish type of deck anyway, so Lackeys are a great fit with Murlocs. Also the Slurper thing is a battle cry, Lackey is a battle cry, you can put in Shudderwock. I mean, it's such an inconspicuous little fellow and little card, but it synergizes incredibly well in so many things that Shaman can do, that I think this little fellow has a bright future ahead of it. Then we're getting a new Druid card, and I'm puzzled. I'm puzzled by this card. Crystal Power, 1 mana, choose one, deal 2 damage to a minion or restore 5 health. Well, it's not quite a Spellstone. Spellstone also deals 2 damage to a minion if it's unbuffed, but later in the game that just doesn't quite do anything. Okay, there's the new Keeper that was recently revealed, so you could get 2 1 mana spells out of Crystal Power. That might be some kind of consolation, but it's still not that awesome. And if you compare it to something like Holy Smite, then Holy Smite, the only reason Holy Smite ever sees plays in combo decks where Holy Smite is going face. But this deals 2 damage to a minion, it cannot go face. So this seems like a really poor card to me. I also really wondered about that restore 5 health. Druid has always been about armor, never about health. But it looks like health gain Druid is going to be something. Because the final card that was revealed today is this one, Crystal Stag. 5 mana 4/4 beast with a rush, and battle cry, if you have restored 5 health this game, summon a copy of this. So obviously if you have restored 5 health this game and you're playing 5 mana, summon 2 4/4 rush beasts, then that's really good. That's a really powerful card. But you have to restore health to use it. How do you restore health? Currently, Druid has 2 spells that restore health. The newly announced Crystal Power and Healing Touch. You'd really rather not put either of these into your deck. So this is really something that we have to wait and see. We need to see the rest of the reveals. Because, I mean, we have seen Blizzard push archetypes before. We have seen Freeze Shaman. We have seen Trent Druid. And it really depends on the level of support there's going to be. Is Beast Heal Druid a thing? Well, if they print a bunch of good cards for it, yeah, of course it's going to be a thing. But this is something that Druid does not have any real support for from the past. For the heal part anyway. There is support for the beast part. So, if there's a bunch of good heal stuff, and you combine that with the old beast things, then we'll see. With the currently revealed cards, this card just leaves me utterly confused. So, those were the 8 cards that were revealed today. It's a really mixed bunch. Return of Resurrect effects, but in pretty bad form. Very strange healing beast druid cards. A weird combo legendary that does something or maybe doesn't. Then there's a neutral 2-drop that could be pretty good depending on the meta. And then there's a really good 1 mana Shaman card and a couple of really interesting Dragon Paladin cards. A confusing reveal day, but lots of potential new archetypes coming. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.